Hey, what's happening, MGTOW? Welcome back. So, yeah, I'm eating. You have to excuse me here for a second because I'm eating, and these ideas have come to me while I'm having breakfast. So, I still want to share them with you, though. Anyways, what do we call this video? I don't know. I'll figure it out. I'll put it in the title later. But right now, you know, I don't really care if somebody likes chocolate or they like vanilla. It's none of my business as far as I'm concerned. Did you have other people that tell me, sweet padre, why are you so hard on the tradcocks, right? Why are you so hard on the traditional conservatives? These guys they're trying to help men, and there's a sliver of truth to that. Some of these traditional conservatives have good intentions, but their ideas have been put to the test, and they haven't really stood up to scrutiny. The reason why we have this mess today, where the destruction of the quote unquote traditional family has taken place, and we're now left with this alphabet soup people running the show, is because the traditionalists were unable to defend the traditional family as they saw it, or what they thought was the traditional family. These guys, they have the idea of a wife, a dog, 2.5 kids in the picket fence in the suburb. And when that began to be questioned by the feminists, it didn't stand up. It had no merit. It didn't stand up to scrutiny. And so that's why we ended up with this mess where kids are now confused as to who's a boy and who's a girl. And it's gotten to the point where even adults are confused now. And many don't even know what has taken place. So that's why I'm hard on the tradcocks, because they have this fairy tale idea, this pipe dream that everything can go back to what they think is normal. And I see it a little different. I see it as well. We could not defend the traditional family. We could not defend it. So we need something new. We can't go back. There's no going back to any of that. And men don't want to take responsibility for a grown human being, and the women don't want the responsibility themselves, right? They're only mothers as far as the government paycheck goes. So what do, right? Of course, that's not the job of MGTOW to solve these problems, right? But this thing keeps coming up. What do we do? MGTOW doesn't provide any answers, any solutions, and that is true. For us, MGTOW is the answer. For us, separation is the answer, right? Let them all figure it out. Let them all sort it out. They want their family. They want their picket fence in the house in the suburbs. Let them figure it out, you know. But like I said, this is a dream, and these track cooks, they're not gonna get away with it. They're not gonna get away with, uh, bringing the women back to, you know, that situation, you know, where, you know, where they are committed to one man. Right? There were some social restraints in the past that made it feasible for a marriage to survive and to take place. Um, but those restraints are long gone, right? The father is out of the home. The way traditionalism worked was that, you know, the father took care of a daughter, right, until she reached the age of maturity. This was a young lady trained by a mother to care for a husband and to and to and to to take care of the things inside the home too, right? And to take care of children. She was groomed for that, and she was taught by her father and by the rest of her family to obey her elders and her and to obey the teachings of their mother and some of the things that that's some of the societal norms that were out there. But the traditionalists, they have this idea that women can be modest. And if we look back in time, not too far back, but back to when I think it was 2004, when the Islamic jihadists took control of certain provinces in Iraq and elsewhere. They demanded that their women wear a hijab or a jihab. What is it called? The headdress of the traditional Muslim woman. Excuse me for not remembering the exact word there. My apologies for that. But it's this idea that women can be modest. That there's such a thing as a modest woman that keeps the traditionalist, dreaming of having this woman that is, that is presentable, right? This woman that is supposedly virtuous and pure, and it happens in the Christian world too. The idea that women can be modestly dressed, and that if they present themselves in such a way that they are indeed modest inside, and the women, in my opinion, they're just following along. They're just keeping themselves in line to whatever society norms are present at the time. And when those regulations, when those restraints are absent, they, in my opinion, they revert back to the natural state, a state of where morality is absent, a state where anything goes. And we have to take into consideration the mind of a woman, right? And why is feminism so popular, right? Of course, we know that feminism is popular largely due to the fact that women are hypergamous. They want more, regardless of how much they already have. But their minds also operate in a very different way than men's minds. We already know that that women love drama, that they that that they'll do almost anything for attention, right? And their minds are minds that are full of trickery and deception. They live in this world that is not so clear cut and dry, right? Where lines tend to be blurry, the lines of morality, and so that's why traditionalism will not work in the future. It will require that we as men begin demanding, en masse, we begin demanding this return to modesty. And because women are able to produce for themselves, uh, they're not gonna have it. They're gonna do as they wish, and so traditionalism is dead. And we need a door to a new beginning, a door to a new future. And I have to ask, yeah, some of these guys have good intentions when they come in the manosphere. Even though they're using the MGTOW name and they're married, they have good intentions. They really do. But I have to ask, where were the shrinks? Where were the psychologists when the men were getting butchered in the courts and elsewhere? Where were they? We know that family therapy is in crisis. We know that because of the results that we see out here in the real world. The psychologists have failed us. They really have. And part of it is because their psychology, that is the psychology that was taught at the universities, was gynocentric in nature. Freudian psychology is nothing if not gynocentric. And if you look at Freud, that is Sigmund Freud, his work, and what he had to say about men and their relation to mothers, to their mothers, and how men fantasized about basically going back to the womb, right? To put it mildly, all these ideas have been passed down through generations of academics, and now we have finally the psychologists have discovered that the masses once again are one step ahead of them, right? First, the mainstream psychologist was caught by surprise. He was caught by surprise when the neurolinguistic programmers ended up creating better and faster change in people's lives and in people's minds. Change that would last longer too. Then the psychologists were once again left behind when the pickup artists discovered some things about female nature and human behavior, and they put them to practice way ahead of anything that mainstream psychologists were were talking about at the time. They were way ahead of the game. And now the psychologists have discovered MGTOW. And instead of being honest and saying, hey, we are psychologists, We're discovering this philosophy that you're talking about. We are studying it further. We are putting it together in a structure, right? Analyzing it better, and giving you credit for it. No, what they're doing is they're using the MGTOW acronym to sell traditionalism. There, I've already mentioned MGTOW News Network. He was a professional psychologist, a family therapist. Why was I so hard on the guy? Some people say. Well, because I know where they're coming from. I know the history of the psychology that's been taking place when it comes to the interaction between men and women. Speed seduction took him by surprise. The mystery method took him by surprise. Real social dynamics took them by surprise. The interaction between dating and game theory took them by surprise. MGTOW took them by surprise. Hell, they were even taken by surprise by the people that questioned the traditional family as we know it. So they're lagging far behind. They have a lot of catching up to do. And when you have millions of people depending on medication to go about their daily lives, you know that mainstream psychologists have failed. So the real psychology, I should say, that is the studies, the real studies that have been taking place, and the results of those studies, the knowledge that's been acquired, has not been brought to the mainstream. It has been kept secret by government entities in the quest for control, while the mainstream psychologist is being taught a lot of obsolete information that no longer maps out the reality of the world today. And so these guys are operating within a framework that's not going to help anybody. A lot of the psychologists that we, the behavior that we have learned, or better put, a lot of the knowledge about human behavior that we have acquired in the past 50 years or so, has been used mostly for political purposes and matters of national security. And so when a guy that is a traditionalist psychologist comes to the manosphere and talks about the merits of marriage before the days of Lyndon Johnson, in the same way that MGTOW News Network did a few videos ago, I have to laugh. I have to laugh because I know that this guy is he's just so lost that that is pathetic. Now, he has good intentions, don't get me wrong. He has good intentions. But like I said, this idea that we can have a happy family, back again, where the man is at the center of everything, and relationships, will be respectful. Intimate relationships, that in my opinion is a myth, a fallacy, or a series of fallacies put together to create a pipe dream. So that's where we stand with these strat cocks. They don't know what hit them. Many were caught by surprise. They're still stuck with ideas, from 2,000 years ago. Sometimes you see, even they're unwilling to question their, their more their sacred cow, to put it mildly. There may be a shooting inside the church, and instead of saying, well, how could this happen, right? Let's use our reason and our logic to figure out how could this happen? The shooting at the mosque, or the shooting at the synagogue, right? If this is the home of the the Most High, or the Lord, however you want to call it, how could this happen here, right? And if that's happening here, what's happening in the real world outside of these walls? And so they refuse to question even that, in hopes that, that if they refuse to question it, somehow, it'll all go away, and their dream of having their perfect little, back to Eden world would come to fruit. But I live in the real world. I live in the world where, no matter how good you think you are, right? No matter how much effort you have made to turn yourself into a better human being. Sometimes you leave a store, and the manager is there, and so are two other guys waiting to make sure that that you paid for all the things that you're walking out with. And so being better, it's a subjective thing. What is better, right? And so, anyways, I think I've talked enough on this video, but that's why I go hard on these guys, because they're trying to go back to a society that will never materialize once more. Instead of building something new and accepting the fact that they could not defend the traditional family as they saw it, they're trying to go back to an idea that they couldn't defend. We got to put something new together. Something that's gonna work for the majority of people. And if this trad cocks are serious about building a better world, I think their efforts would be, better spent on, first realizing that women lack modesty, and that they lack morality, and that they love to sleep around, and that they're not going to get stuck with one man forever and ever until death does them apart. Anyways, MGTOW, thank you for listening. I will catch you in the next video. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. YouTube is shadow banning this channel, just like the rest of the real MGTOW channels out here, that are, the guys are being persecuted. So give it a thumbs up. It's the least I ask. Thank you for watching and listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.